Freedom Fighter Radio, what is up? Whoa!
Shout out to Freedom Fighter Radio. And Joe, you're doing great work, brother, and I love it. All right, always.
I am Derek Sloan, the leader of the Ontario Party. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Canada podcast, only here on The Ordinary Joe Show.
Make sure you listen to the Freedom Fighter Radio on The Ordinary Show.
I'm Pastor Arthur from Calgary. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Worldwide podcast, only here on The Ordinary Joe Show.
I'm on Freedom Fighter Radio on The Ordinary Joe Show. That's quite a mouthful. Yes. Hey guys, this is Chris Sky. Listen to Freedom Fighter Radio. They're here today, back in the blue, and so am I.
Hi, Ordinary
Mr.
Joe.
Poliev, how are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you, Ordinary Joe?
For the best price in town on your flooring, call Complete Flooring. The unique shop-at-home experience means samples are brought right to your door, and because we don't pay salesmen, there's no markup on our products. Complete Flooring does the installation of new hardwood floors and sands them using a dustless machine, making the sanding process cleaner. We also specialize in refinishing, staining, and custom staining of existing hardwood floors. Our Green Guard certified environmentally friendly finish is now available. Drying in a quarter of the time of regular stains means you can get back in your house sooner, and it will last longer. If you're a homeowner, general contractor, or a building or property manager, Complete Flooring services are available to you. So give us a call today.
Consider supporting the OJTV production costs and be an insider member for only $3 a month. Go to patreon.com/OJTV Canada. Thank you for your continued support.
Canadians all across the country are sick and tired of the lies, the fear-mongering, and the hate speech they hear from the mainstream media. Download the free radio app, Freedom Fighter Radio. Click the link below, scan our QR code, join our mailing list, and get a free download of our Freedom Fighter Radio app, only here on OJTV on The Ordinary Joe Show.
Good morning. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. Thank you for tuning in. This is the second day. Well, this technically should be the first day, the actual implementation of the tariffs, but of the United States against all the products, almost all of the products that the Canadians are exporting into the United States. And last minute, on the 11th hour last night, Trudeau gave in. Trudeau rolled over because I'm pretty sure what happened was he got jealous with the deal that the president of Mexico got from the president of the United States, how the Mexicans were given 30 more days extension before the tariff arrives. And with all the posturing and chest pumping, pretending to be masculine Trudeau, but we know how effeminate, and he's a feminist, self-proclaimed feminist, but we all know how effeminate he is. And Doug Ford's childish behavior, all of a sudden they saw the deal that the Mexicans got from Donald Trump, and so they start caving in. And but the Wall Street Journal, of course, will spin it the other way around. They said that Trudeau cave in, rolled over because he got scared of Justin Trudeau. Who gets scared of Justin Trudeau? Who takes Justin Trudeau seriously? Not even the kindergarten class in our neighborhood elementary, junior elementary school here. Not even the kindergarten students takes Justin Trudeau seriously. Just to be very honest, nobody takes Justin Trudeau seriously, and you think the tough American President Donald Trump cave in to Justin Trudeau's demands or threats of retaliation? Folks, we gotta wake up because all of this mentality, all of this mindset, a big segment of our society continues to allow themselves to be brainwashed by the mainstream media. There's a lot of people I know who seems to be reasonable, but all of their reasoning comes dictated upon them by what they hear from the radio or the television. And this is the kind of opinion that they espouse for themselves just because they heard it on TV. They heard it on radio, and this becomes their belief system. And so I'm very disgusted with what I heard, what happened the other day at the LA Clippers versus Toronto Raptors game that was held at home here in Toronto. And I heard about you know, guys, I don't watch basketball. My wife from time to time would get the big screen and watch the NBA live NBA game here on the big screen. And if that's happening, then I glance over and take a peek from time to time. But I'm not interested anymore with the NBA, rolling over to wokeism during the pandemic days that they were pushing the BLM agenda, propaganda. And you know what that did to our society. And whatever happened to those BLM founders? I heard that they were racking up a lot of millions of dollars and they're buying mansions. But what goes around comes around, as they say. And I heard that one of the BLM founders' mansion got burned in those LA fires that happened a couple weeks ago. So, you know, the Lord brings justice. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, right? Sometimes we do not have to take justice upon ourselves. Do not take justice into your hands. Because if you do, then you got your revenge, and that revenge will be mediocre at best. But if we stay humble and we rely on the Lord to um, ensure justice, sometimes it doesn't come right away, but ultimately justice is served for all of the galactic reality that we are in. I say galactic because sometimes we feel like our own timeline, our human timeline here on Earth, seems like justice is delayed. There's a saying that justice delayed is justice denied. But that's because we perceive some of the justice that we are looking for, the atrocity that was hurled upon us, like the tyranny and the crime that was hurled upon our truckers and our freedom loving families that went to Ottawa in 2022 for the Freedom Convoy. It feels like justice delayed is justice denied, but there are many layers on the realities of justice. Maybe on the national level, all of those corrupted and colluding judges with the Justin Trudeau ilk are probably denying us justice, but justice is not only um, encapsulated in that paradigm. there justice is bigger than the galactic justice and godly justice, justice from our creator, our father, Abba Father in heaven. That justice is bigger and more and trump all of the um they call it the justice of King's Bench or something like that. Canadian justice, Canadian Supreme Court, Canadian um, regional, provincial courts, the provincial court of the King's Bench, something like that. I can't remember exactly how it's called, but we should not be taking justice upon ourselves, because when you think you have been assaulted or offended or bullied, and sometimes people who think or feel that they're bullied, they just feel that way because the television told them so. Whatever narrative, whatever opinion the television has, people seems to mimic those as if it's their own. This is the problem when a big chunk, a big segment of our society has succumbed to the mockingbird, the Operation Mockingbird, how the intelligence community, the social engineers, the technocrats, the tyrants have utilized, weaponized mainstream media as a tool to dictate onto people how they should feel, how they should think, and what sort of stipulations they if you write if people will write down on a piece of paper their certain beliefs system and compare it to the diktats of what you should be believing in and what you should be how you should be thinking as demagogued by the mainstream media, by the CBC, by the CTV. Compare your belief system to the belief system that has been injected into you. See, folks, this is a problem. People who are brainwashed will not admit that they are brainwashed, because people don't even know that they are brainwashed, unless if they know, then they're not brainwashed anymore, right? As soon as people understand, as soon as people recognize that I am probably brainwashed, that's the reason, folks. I personally do a check from time to time when I get emotionally riled up by something, before I allow myself to succumb to that kind of heightened emotional feeling towards a certain narrative. From time to time, I catch myself. Why am I feeling this way? Is it something I feel because it was dictated upon me to feel this way because I watched too much or I listened to too much opinion of other people or influential people, and all of a sudden, instead of me using my critical mind to form my own opinion and my own belief system, I actually absorb, I actually just mimic the belief system, the mentality of other people that I listen to. That's the reason, folks. Books, radio shows, podcast, television shows, newspapers. These are powerful, powerful tool, because people don't. It's very rare for humans um, to critically or criticize what they are hearing, what they are perceiving, to to criticize the source of information or narrative that people are listening to. A vast majority of the members of the masses just take things on by face value, whatever is being dictated by what they're watching. Even when you are watching a movie, I remember when I was a little kid watching a lot of kung fu, you know, Chinese kung fu, Bruce Lee type movies and Jackie Chan movies in the Philippines when I was growing up. You see little boys when they watch action movies, especially if it's martial arts, right after that show, you'll see them like jumping around and doing karate chops. And that's how powerful and influential visual imprinting is. It's called imprinting. And it's part of developmental psychology. And little kids, especially kids under 5, they have the I think somewhat in the range of 75% of the fundamental knowledge that they need to acquire to survive on Earth. Humans acquire fundamental knowledge, basic knowledge, all of, and 75% of what we need to survive on Earth. We acquire that before we turn 5. That's why I'm a very big fan of Gordon Newfield's book, Hold On to Your Kids, because that's part of social engineering tactics that the New World Order has, is to bring your little children of young families. A lot of parents, modern day parents, they don't find the joy in parenting, or they might find the joy, but they find parenting so stressful. Or and I know a lot of intelligent people who gets their parenting skills from books, parenting books, right? I only read one parenting book ever, and I consider the vast majority, 99.99% of those parenting book that you can buy at Chapters or Indigo, I consider 99.99% of them as garbage. I only consider one parenting book, in my opinion, as actually valuable. And this parenting book talks about, do not read parenting books. It's called Hold On to Your Kids by Gordon Neufeld. He talks about how the fundamental, um, the learning years of kids under 5. He even, I think the advocacy in that book is to hold on to your kids until they're 6 or 7 before you sign them up, or you subsidize childcare, or what's the word? When you pass on, you delegate parenting to the institutional system, to the public school system. There's a business term that's in the tip of my tongue. When you offshore, um, it's not offshore, but when you, oh, that word, I forgot that word. When you pass it to a contractor, the job that you are supposed to be doing, you pass it to a contractor. A lot of parents like to do this, because modern day parents, they feel like parenting is so tedious, and they just don't see the joy of parenting. I guess, honestly, there's a lot of young people that sees parenting as a hassle, as a impediment to their own personal growth, inconvenience. Well, I'm not gonna say anymore, because I do not want to be condemning or judgmental, but I'm just, let's call things the way it is. There are modern day parents who can, as quick as they can pass their kids to the school system or sign them up to daycare. There are kids, when I used to volunteer at my daughter's kindergarten, when she was kindergarten, junior JK, and senior kindergarten SK. I saw kids that were there at at um, at the daycare before the school starts, and they stay another 3 hours at daycare after school is over. So some of these kids, they spend like 10, 11 hours at school and maybe a couple of hours with their parents, 5 days a week, 5 days a week. And before you know it, these kids are already quickly become, you know, from babies to toddlers to preteens, and you miss out. A lot of parents are missing out on their own children's growth. I can go on and on with this. I probably should have a separate episode talking about this. Everything that I learned when I was hands on, full time hands on dad to my daughter until she turned grade one, until she turned 7 years old. I was hands on with her every day. Every day. I was her unpaid nanny. No benefits, no salary, but it was a full joy. It was like I will never exchange it for anything. I will not exchange it for a high paying job. If somebody offered me 150,000 or $200,000 a year job in those years between my daughter turning from 1 to 6, 7 years old, I wouldn't exchange it for being there and seeing her develop and grow, seeing her learning how to read, how to walk, how to socialize, how to learn how to talk. The very first word that came out of her mouth is dada. And there's actually a book named Dada by one of the late night comedians. I'm not big fans of these late night comedians in the US, but this particular book is pretty bang on. Anyways, when the word of God says to train up a child the way he or she should go, if we do that when he grows up, he will not depart from the values that the parents teach the little children. But if we relegate the teaching of our child to the public school system, people who do not have an emotional or spiritual affinity to your children, they see your children as clients, customers. Then whatever they hear or learn from the public school system, and most of this public school system is not place for education. We know that they are places for indoctrination. Then they will stick to whatever they learn, and they will not emulate or mimic the value that you teach them. That's the reason we witness this kind of disgusting behavior, like the other day when Toronto Raptor fans were booing the American national anthem at the LA Clippers versus Toronto Raptors game. Guys, oh my goodness. Booing somebody's national anthem is like insulting somebody's last name. An individual or a group of people's national anthem is like their last name. It's part of their identity, it's part of their heritage. That is disgusting. That is something that shouldn't be seen. Canadians know better than that. We know better than that. Are we so insecure as Canadians that all we can do to muster up our Canadian pride is to insult and boo somebody else's national anthem? Imagine all the Canadian children that was at the stadium while the adults, the young adults, most likely the single. I'm not sure the parents. Well, probably some of these young parents were doing it too, just because they heard from the CBC that we are now a trade war with the Americans. They thought it would be a good idea to escalate this trade war that we are trying to avoid, that we are speaking against, criticizing our leaders to not get into that trade war. Canada will never win that trade war. What we need to do is to grow our industries and make ourselves self-reliant and get off from the globalist economic order, world order. But when the adults at that basketball arena are booing the opponent's national anthem, what kind of role model are the young adults giving the children that were there? Little children come to basketball games. Little children, young parents of young families bring their children to basketball games. Imagine if you're a young Canadian kid at that basketball game and you hear your grown-ups booing the national anthem of the American team. What kind of example are you demonstrating for the little children? So they would think that, oh wow, this is this is what it means to be proudly Canadian, is to boo the American national anthem. That makes us proud Canadians. Is that is that your is that the only way you think you can muster up Canadian self-esteem? That's the way you are going to show yourself as proud Canadian, is to boo the American national anthem? Well, imagine if there were some American kids in there. Some young parents who are big basketball fans from other teams, from opposing teams, they travel with the team that they like and they bring their children along with them. Imagine if they're young American children in the stadium and they hear the Canadians booing their identity, their American national anthem. What kind of damage are you inflicting upon these little American kids? Seriously? It is so pathetic that there are a lot of Canadians who do not understand their Canadian heritage. They have an identity crisis in terms of their Canadiana identity. That they think that the only way they can muster up a sense of nationality, patriotism, their patriotic duty to be Canadian is to boo the American national anthem. And here's another thing. Doug Ford taking out all the American liquors, American brand liquors from LCBO. That makes him feel like he's proudly Canadian by taking the choice away from people, insulting the consumers, that they cannot think for themselves. They cannot decide for themselves if they want to buy Canadian if they want to reject American brands? No. The premier of this province will do it for you, will take away your choice. Is that how backward Canadian society has really slide back into? I am upset with our Canadian leaders, and that's the reason many Canadians who are intelligent Canadians do not mind to consider anymore being the 51st state of the United States, because it seems like the Americans are looking forward to a golden age, a promising time for their children. Yet our Canadian leaders are just like little children throwing tantrums. They do not know how to deal with this situation, when in fact they are the one who brought us into this dire situation, this dire place where we are in. Folks, don't go away. We'll be right back.
For the best price in town on your flooring, call Complete Flooring. The unique shop-at-home experience means samples are brought right to your door, and because we don't pay salesmen, there's no markup on our products. Complete Flooring does the installation of new hardwood floors and sands them using a dustless machine, making the sanding process cleaner. We also specialize in refinishing, staining, and custom staining of existing hardwood floors. Our Green Guard certified environmentally friendly finish is now available. Drying in a quarter of the time of regular stains means you can get back in your house sooner, and it will last longer. If you're a homeowner, general contractor, or a building or property manager, Complete Flooring services are available to you. So give us a call today.
Consider supporting the OJTV production cost and be an insider member for only $3 a month. Go to patreon.com/OJTV Canada. Thank you for your continued support.
Canadians all across the country are sick and tired of the lies, the fear-mongering, and the hate speech they hear from the mainstream media. Download the free radio app, Freedom Fighter Radio. Click the link below, scan our QR code, join our mailing list, and get a free download of our Freedom Fighter Radio app only here on OJTV on The Ordinary Joe Show.
I'm Pastor Arthur from Calgary. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Worldwide podcast, only here on The Ordinary Joe Show.
Immediately out! Immediately go and don't come back.
Welcome back to the Freedom Fighter Radio. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. It's Tuesday, the 4th of February. Welcome to our Facebook listeners, folks. We've been broadcasting for 39 minutes already. First two-thirds of the show is already over, but we are just welcoming our Facebook listeners to the show, because when we are setting this live broadcast every morning, there are so many moving parts. There are so many buttons to press, and one of the buttons that needs to be pressed on the Facebook Live, the button that says "Go Live." I just forgot to press that one, folks. So we were live on Rumble, we were live on Odyssey and BitChute, and also YouTube. And I thought we were broadcasting live on Crosspost on Facebook, but during the break, I was going to check. I did my rounds. I checked all of the channels, and I didn't check Facebook Crosspost. And so I just checked it during the break, and I saw that I didn't press go live. So our Facebook listeners, folks, you are just joining in just now. I think technically though, after we sign off, we end this broadcast. I think, I'm not sure, but I think the entire episode will be posted on Facebook. Hopefully it does, because I do not have access to five of those big pages, unless I can only push live broadcast to those five big pages that we lost admin access to. But you are here listening right now to the last segment of our morning show. After we sign off, if you want to hear the first two-thirds of the show, I guess I would recommend all our Facebook listeners that are tuning in just now to please go to our Rumble channel. I won't be able to paste anything on those five pages I'm talking about: Freedom Fighter Radio Earthwide Broadcast, the Global Resistance page, the People's Radio Canada page, Red Pill Canada, and the Pure Blooded Believers in Christ page. Those are five of our biggest pages where our admin access is just tyrannically taken away by fascist book. But somehow, with this new platform that we are utilizing right now, we can push live broadcast in those five pages at least. But I cannot post anything there, so I won't be able to post the link to Rumble. Just please, folks, go to Rumble and look for the channel Freedom Fighter Radio, and you'll be able to hear the entire episode. I'm a little low energy again today, folks, because from time to time I have all these, health issues that prevents me from getting good sleep at night. So I'm a little low energy, but we made a commitment to create this community online by going live every day. We haven't committed to a specific time, so we we have been doing the morning shows, even though sometimes it's tough to squeeze that into the lifestyle. But it is a calling that we are obeying the Lord to keep on doing. But before we went on break, to those who are just listening in, we're talking about this incident at the LA Clippers versus Toronto the Raptors game that happened here in Toronto. The I believe or do we have NBA games here? I think is the Scotiabank Arena. Is it? Yes, I think that's where the NBA games happen here in Toronto. Like I said, I dropped the NBA, as I'm not a fan of the NBA anymore since 2020. I was there doing entertainment vlogs during the Toronto Raptors bid for the championship in 2019, and they became the champions in 2019. And none of those players are still with the Toronto Raptors. I think all those players who took the Toronto Raptors for the very first time into the championship. I think Nick Nurse and all those players. I'm not even following the Toronto Raptors, folks. I lost appetite because of all the BLM wokeness that they pushed. But for all of our Facebook listeners who are just tuning in right now, just coming into the show, the topic that we were talking about just before the break was the booing incident of in the stadium during the LA Clippers versus Raptors game, that the Toronto fans in the stadium, in the basketball arena, booed the American national anthem. And I was talking about probably these young I would assume, just kind of imagining if I was there at the stadium, I would think that probably it's mostly the young singles, the young adults watching the game. They're the ones who were participating or initiating this booing incident of the American national anthem. Hopefully, it's not the young parents who brings their own little children to the games. I'm hoping that they're not the one doing that, because if they're little children are watching them booing the American national anthem, what kind of example have they been teaching their little children to do that? That is so unethical, uncivilized, childish, and just you've just if you are listening and you're one of those who booed the American national anthem because you've been persuaded and been influenced by the CBC and the CTV and Doug Ford and Trudeau, that it makes you think because of this political class, this media class, this academic class are telling you that this is your patriotic duty. This is your pride as a Canadian. The way you express your pride as a Canadian is to boo the American national anthem. If you're one of those who booed the American national anthem during the game, you've just elevated the trade war that we are trying to avoid, the trade war that many freedom podcasters like yours truly are criticizing the leaders of our government to not get into that trade war. We are not going to win that trade war with the United States. But you who booed the Americans, and most important, the American national anthem, which is an extension of someone's identity, someone's pride. It's like insulting somebody's last name, family last name. That's the same effect as when you boo an opponent's national anthem. Those Raptors fans who did that in that game a few days ago, I don't know when that was. Like I said, I'm not a big basketball fan anymore. But if you initiated that and participated in that, you just elevated our so-called trade war that we are trying to avoid. You elevated it into a cultural war. It's just a matter of time, and hopefully the Americans will be the bigger boys, the bigger man, and they will not retaliate with booing the Toronto Raptors when they are in the home turf of an American team in the next game. I'm hoping that childish Americans in the basketball stadium, see, that's what happened when people are so inundated with these sports games. It takes their attention away from things that truly matter. And just like this little kids that uses TikTok, according to many psychiatrists, the TikTok users, they develop something, what is called a TikTok brain. And this TikTok brain is very dangerous. It rewires the brain of these little children. And in that analogy, I think a lot of these basketball fans that are too passionate about basketball and do nothing else, do not pay attention to what real social issues that matter for Canadians. I think similar to the victims of TikTok brain, they end up having basketball brains. And these basketball brains, it becomes dangerous. These basketball brains rewire their brains to a point that they don't understand the implication of their actions. Booing the American national anthem, they just elevated the trade war that we're trying to avoid into a cultural war. They just want to, they just don't understand what they're doing. Because if this becomes retaliated, if the Toronto Raptors go to an American city and the Americans starts booing the Canadian national anthem, what would you feel about that? And Canadian kids visiting an American state, an American city for an NBA basketball game, and little children will hear in the stadium their own national anthem being booed by the Americans. How do you think these little children will be affected by that? You've just elevated this trade war that we are trying to avoid. You just elevated it into a cultural war. And do you guys understand many of the kinetic military war, how it starts? It starts with dehumanizing the country or the identity of the nationality of the opponent country. In any kinetic military war, the first step is to dehumanize the opponent's identity. What the heck are you guys doing? Do you understand the implication of what you're doing, booing the national anthem, the American national anthem of the opposing team? You just insulted somebody's family name, family heritage. That is the same effect when you boo a foreign team's national anthem. I think those people needs to make an apology, public apology on their social medias. You know, right now I'm going to apologize to the Americans on behalf of the childish fellow Canadians who just did that. To all of my American listeners, to all of my American brothers and sisters in the fight, brothers and sisters in the faith, please forgive the immaturity and the childishness of many of our American basketball fans, Toronto Raptor fans, for booing your national anthem. Please accept our apologies. I apologize for those. I wasn't in there. I'm not a basketball fan, but I am apologizing in behalf of some of my stupid fellow Canadians who were doing that. Please forgive us. Please do not retaliate. Please let us not allow this childish behavior elevate into something akin to a cultural war. My fellow Canadians who listen to the CBC and the CTV and the global mainstream mockingbird media, please create your own opinion. Do not let the Doug Fords and the Trudeau dictate upon you what you should be feeling. They think the only patriotic duty that people can have is to engage in this cultural war, these insults, this childish behavior. Like in a couple of previous episodes, I talk about how a lot of Canadians think that overpaying their personal income tax is their patriotic duty. That is freaking stupid. Please stop doing that. I used to be a tax planner, and the CRA default is if you are paying less than what you should, they will go after you. But if you are paying more than what you should be paying in taxes, then they will be silent about that. They will be silent about that. And people think that obeying their government with no question is their patriotic duty. Is just, why don't you just turn yourself in, go to Guantanamo Bay or lock yourself up in a prison, because those prisoners in the prison system, that's how they show their obedience and their member of society's duty is to obey everything with no question. It doesn't make you patriotic. It doesn't make you Canadian, more Canadian, by insulting other people's national anthem. It doesn't make you a proud Canadian for being arrogant. Canadian arrogance has to stop. You are emulating, you are repeating the lines of the oligarchy, the elite class, the political class, the media types, the academic types. When they say that they're proud Canadians, they don't even understand what makes them Canadian. They don't understand. A lot of Canadians don't understand what makes us proud as Canadians. A lot of people think that Canadian identity is all about Singhortons, hockey. If you're able to say "eh," is that it? Is that your Canadian identity? Pathetic. Pathetic. Disgusting. I condemn you and I disown you if you participated in booing the American national anthem during that game. I need you to grow up and I need you to apologize. Our Canadian pride and identity is not based on insulting other people's identity. Shed yourselves of the identity politics and the childish behavior. Folks, thank you for listening in. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. It was a low energy Tuesday morning. But let's pray that, and thank God that we have a 30-day extension before the tariffs are imposed. But I think we should embrace the tariffs. We should do it ourselves. We should tariff every imports that comes into Canada. But practically, the only products we should not be tariffing are the American imports, because the leaders of this country did not give priority in helping our industries, our manufacturing industries to grow, except from since the 60s and the 70s, our manufacturing has diminished in Canada from 35% to now under 9% of our economy is in manufacturing. How could you say you are going to tariff everything American when you don't have your own products? When you don't have the manufacturing engine to supply the Canadians' need? Who is going to pay for those tariffs? Not the Americans. The Canadians will be paying high price at the grocery stores. Folks, stop listening to these globalist politicians who are dictating upon you your belief system and the way you should be thinking. Think for yourselves. Think like a true Canadian, a member of the True North, strong and free. I love you all. Thank you for listening in. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Best price in town on your flooring, call Complete Flooring. The unique shop-at-home experience means samples are brought right to your door, and because we don't pay salesmen, there's no markup on our products. Complete Flooring does the installation of new hardwood floors and sands them using a dustless machine, making the sanding process cleaner. We also specialize in refinishing, staining, and custom staining of existing hardwood floors. Our Green Guard certified environmentally friendly finish is now available. Drying in a quarter of the time of regular stains means you can get back in your house sooner, and it will last longer. If you're a homeowner, general contractor, or a building or property manager, Complete Flooring services are available to you. So give us a call today.
Consider supporting the OJTV production cost and be an insider member for only $3 a month. Go to patreon.com/OJTV Canada. Thank you for your continued support.
I'm Pastor Arthur from Calgary. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Worldwide podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
Freedom Fighter Radio, what is up? Whoa!
Shout out to Freedom Fighter Radio. And Joe, you're doing great work, brother, and I love it. All right? Always.
I am Derek Sloan, the leader of the Ontario party. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Canada podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
Make sure you listen to the Freedom Fighter Radio on the Ordinary Show.
I'm Pastor Arthur from Calgary. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Worldwide podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
On Freedom Fighter Radio on the Ordinary Joe Show. That's quite a mouthful. Yes.
Hey guys, this is Chris Guy. Listen to Freedom Fighter Radio. They're here today, back in the blue, and so am I.
Hi, Ordinary
Mr.
Joe.
Polyev, how are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you, Ordinary Joe?